Ooh, sorry about that. All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Gents Sports, aka Gents 716 back here again. And today, I want to quickly recap the Cleveland Browns dominating the Tennessee Titans. And this was a shocker, in my opinion, because I never would have thought that the Browns was going to dominate this football team like the way we kind of saw before. And uh, I think the question has been for the Cleveland Browns. They're an extremely talented football team, probably one of the more talented teams in football. But they have a young coaching staff. You know, they've had a quarterback that hasn't really played well since his rookie year, and that was back in 2018. You get all these superstars, all these great players, but the Browns have been underachieving they've been underachieving for years, and you have to compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. So the question really was, with this schedule, were they not only going to be competitive, but win against some of the bigger teams in football, and finally make the damn playoffs with the amount of talent that was on this damn roster for for the Browns. Were they finally going to be able to do it? They answered that question, and it is yes. This was their ninth win against Tennessee. Baker Mayfield looked as good. He looked as great as I've ever seen him throw the football today. The offensive line was dominant as far as pass protection and as far as the ground game goes. Receivers were getting wide open, whether it was Donovan Peoples-Jones. Well, I think he actually had a drop in this game, but Donovan Peoples-Jones had a really good game with 92 yards. Rashard Higgins, Jarvis Landry. I mean, the Cleveland Browns receivers and their playmakers on the outside, these guys stepped up huge today. Defensively, they were able to force turnovers and were able to force Tennessee to making some dumb mistakes. Receivers for Tennessee just couldn't catch the football today. They stopped the crap out of Derrick Henry. They stopped Derrick Henry, and that's number one thing. If you're going to beat the Tennessee Titans, you got to stop Derrick Henry. And the Browns front seven, they did a great job of really not letting the Tennessee Titans dictate the pace of the game, not really dictate what they were going to do on the offense side of the ball, not letting Derrick Henry go. I mean, Derrick Henry only had 15 carries for 60 yards, and a lot of his yards came around that garbage time period where the Cleveland Browns were up huge. I mean, so you got to give just a huge pat in the back to this Cleveland, not just to the players that played today, but for that coaching staff, just the overall organization, because this was a franchise one, in my opinion. This wasn't just a coaching or players win. This was, in my opinion, a whole organization win, because finally there's structure. Finally, there is structure for the Cleveland Browns, and whether if this is just a 1 year type of thing, or if this is gonna finally go on for the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, that's something that we'll find out. But this was just an extraordinary win. You beat one of the best teams in the NFL, probably one of the top four teams in the AFC, and you dominate them. And the Browns are still in second place in the division now. Are they going to win the division? Hey, it's still there. The opportunity is still there for the Cleveland Browns to do it, but this was just the biggest question. Can they beat a really good team? 'Cause if you look at the Browns wins, it's been mostly against bad teams, mediocre bad teams. And a lot of the good teams they've played against, they've gotten destroyed. They've not only lost, they've gotten destroyed. So this was the one question: can they beat a really, really good football team that's going to not only clinch their division, but is a top 5 team in the NFL? And not only did they beat them, they dominated them. I mean, these guys were up 38-7 at one point. I mean, it was crazy. I know the final score says 41-35, but if you watch the game, it was domination. And the Titans this was definitely not their best game. They definitely did a lot of stuff that we're not used to seeing the Titans do. But a lot of the credit has to go to Cleveland. They showed up and they played tonight and they destroyed them. And they pretty much kind of send a message that, hey, you got to play your best. You got to play your A game. If you don't play your A game against us, we got the talent to not only beat you, we got the talent to destroy you. And in the playoffs, you're gonna have games where you need to dominate the competition. There are games like my Buffalo Bills where you're up and huge in the first half and you let the opponent back in the second half. That's gonna cost you in the playoffs. If you're going to win 4 straight games, you need games like this to happen for your team. You need games like what the Cleveland Browns were able to do when you can just dominate a football team. What the New England Patriots did to the Chargers, where you just dominate a football team. Don't ever let them back in the football game. You need games like this. Now, the Titans were able to get back in the football game, but it wasn't really until The last 35 seconds where the Browns pretty much had the game sealed, that's when the Titans kind of made it competitive. Now, I give the Titans credit for coming back and not quitting, and they fought their way back to only being down by 7 points, but we all knew it was just garbage time. The game was 41-21 at the end of the day. It was 41-21 where the Browns were up huge. That was really when the game was over, even when the Titans were making such a huge jump. But at the end of the day, the Browns were able to show the NFL that they're there to stay. They're 9-3. They're in great position right now to make the playoffs. The rest of their schedule is, for the most part, it's an easy path for them to get the 10-11 wins. To get the 10-11 wins, they need to clinch a playoff spot. Even though it's going to be a wild card spot, the Cleveland Browns have just solidified themselves now of being a big playoff. Now, to be not just a playoff contender, to be a championship contender. Who would have thought the Cleveland Browns would be championship contenders? Fuck, 2020 is definitely a weird year. But anyway, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to hit the like button, share the video, and also subscribe. Also, again, it just really helps out the channel. Lets me know that you guys want more NFL weekly content, and I'll be there to deliver for you guys. So anyway, guys, Gen716, aka Gen Sports. Have a good night. Stay safe. I'm out. Peace.